Hey, I hope you had a really great Thanksgiving. I know I did. It's fantastic. I love this time of the year. And I love doing my half marathons on Thanksgiving when permissible and when it happens and when everything comes together for me. So it's fantastic. I hope you had a good one. Hope you enjoyed the meal with family or perhaps on your own, or perhaps you had to go to work, which many times I've had to do that too. But anyway, I have a great show today. This is awesome. I got to speak with Tom Paxton, the very legendary folk musician, along with another legend, John McCutcheon. This is John's third appearance on this podcast. Actually, John was my first guest 3.5 years ago as I speak for this episode. So I hope you have a really good time. And I want to thank everybody who got this one together. It's never easy getting two people together, especially two wonderfully talented people like that. We had a great time and we talk about their new project. It's called Together, full of great music. We really get into that. Good new album. Get it wherever you get music. I'd like to have a very serious, nice shout out to my very, very good old chum, good old friend of mine. His name is Chuck Fink. And he's a Cleveland legend. Yes, you are a legend, Chucky. Just stop it. I'm going to give you that label. He has been a folk musician himself for many years in the Cleveland, Ohio area. He's always out there performing. So check him out, Chuck Fink, Fink. And his birthday is around this point in the year. So happy birthday to him. Anyway, hope you have a good time listening to this. John McCutcheon and Tom Paxton have a lot of great memories working with some of the biggest legends in folk music. Enjoy. Doing this hobby on my own time has always been a lot of fun. This has been born out of the pandemic. So just been having a really good time doing that and living here in Atlanta. And finally, finally has cooled off.
Well, it's
So
supposed to be warmer over the weekend, but anyway.
yeah, it's nice. It's been really, really nice.
So you guys are both in Atlanta. You can stick your head out the window and shout.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
I'm a little
Come
north
on
of John.
down.
Yeah.
Come on down, Tom.
yeah.
So,
Hotlanta.
Hotland. So, Bob, what do you want to talk about today?
The new project. Let's promote this wonderful thing. It's called Together. And how did it come together? This is just really a fascinating. I just listened to it on Amazon Music and just a really great project. It sounds like this was a really heavy lift, working through Zoom and then finally getting together. So yeah, just from the top, how did this all come together?
We found out that our uncle had a barn and we could put on a show. Uh, we had Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney, and
Yeah,
they both died and
we're the last
I
left.
ones.
remember this too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We've been pals for a very long time, and when you're playing, you always say, why don't we get together sometime and do it? And the pandemic kind of said, what else you gonna do? So
Well, it
we
also
got
made
together.
it also made it convenient because in the past, when you were going to co-write with somebody, you were in the same room. And being as we don't live in the same town, um, and I think we're both people who don't like to be bored. And
No,
and this new technology. I mean, we had to learn so much new technology. I mean, we musicians were the first ones to lose our jobs and the last ones to get them back. And so, in the meantime, we had to kind of figure out how do we keep the wolf from the door? How do we scratch that itch that is, want to do creative things, and then you want to see your pals, and all of a sudden you could do it for free.
Where do you get the
and
inspiration though? It's yeah.
oh, that's uh, that's at once the mystery of it all and the easiest part of it is where do you get the inspiration is you say, I need an idea. What's an idea? And there it is. The ideas come if you're looking for them. Seek and ye shall find, somebody once said, and it's true. if you're looking for songs, you find songs.
And even when you can't come up with something, I mean, on the album, there's the song Same Old Crap, which is the result of not, we both said, I don't know, I don't have anything. Okay, that's the first line. I'm looking at the page and I got nothing. And somehow, you just follow the song's lead. I think with some people, they feel like there has to be a storyboard there, and you're kind of almost dictating the whole thing. One of the things I think that Tom and I share is we're willing to use the pen as a flashlight more than as a mere dictation device, to quote Billy Collins. And so you can find, all of a sudden it was, oh, I guess I'll sing the same old crap tonight,
Yeah.
or like Life Before You. It was, oh, we don't have to go to the predictable end here. Let's surprise ourselves and the listener.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really scrappy
Uh,
tune. I really like that vibe.
Yeah.
Same old crap today. Uh,
Well, you just imagine what it's like when you're starting off and you got no audience. You're playing in some noisy place where people have not paid to come see you, and they're drinking and they're visiting with their friends, and there's a jukebox and it's a pool table and there's a television on, and there's you. Um, thank God both of
go
us
out,
are that.
just go out there and have a good time.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
It's a glamorous life.
Yeah.
Were you
If
always
it weren't
like
for
that
the
though? Always like, hey, you know what? I don't care anymore. I mean, were you obviously a little bit more conscientious when you were far younger starting out as compared to now? It's like, let's just go out there and have fun.
Well, I think we don't get offered the demeaning jobs that we had to take back then.
yeah.
And Tom,
To
I mean,
me, there's nothing worse than a bar gig. Um, one of my dows is you have never played your last bar gig. You may think you have, you may swear you have, but sure as hell you're gonna come come to someday and find yourself in the middle of a bar gig with nobody paying attention, and just hell. I hate it when I see young performers playing bar gigs because I mean it's even worse than busking. It's soul destroying.
mm,
You're singing to people who don't give a shit about you
yeah,
or what you have to say or anything, and the horse you rode in on. And that's awful. Um, uh,
well, Tom, when you,
busking is
yeah,
busking's almost as bad, but the people at least are indifferent as they walk past.
yeah, yeah.
But the bar gigs, they hate you.
Well,
Let me
Tom,
hear it.
how was there any of that vibe when you started off back in the Village? Back, Bob, you may not know, but Tom was one of the original folk crew. I
Going
mean,
back to Greenwich Village, and did you share an
Yeah,
apartment with Noel Paul Stukey? Going
I
back
did.
then,
Not
yeah.
only Noel Paulsuki, but also Wavy Gravy.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Um, the vibe there was wonderful. Um, it was a great place to be a young performer because people cared. People came to the village to hear you and discover you. Um, I can't tell you how many people come up to me and say, I saw you at the Gaslight.
Wow.
And uh, Gaslight was home. It was a friendly place to be, and you loved all the other performers, and you learned from them. And someone like Phil Oakes would gladly critique your song, and then sing one for you for your opinion. Uh, and there was a lot of that. Of course, there was competition, uh, but the competition was friendly, supportive. They wanted, we all wanted the best for each other. It sounds idyllic, but it pretty near was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and supportive of each other and
Yeah,
building your
yeah,
music. Yeah.
that's right. And hey, how did you play that lick? Oh, let
Yeah.
me show you. I'll
And
show you.
or Dylan presenting you with the lyrics to Hard Rain's Gonna Fall and saying, what should I do with this?
Yeah, yeah. I told him to put a tune to it. And now when it goes into the sixth or seventh minute, I think, what was I thinking? No, I'm kidding there. I love that song. I think it's a brilliant song.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was kind of the next generation after. I mean, we're only separated by about 15 years, but I was growing up in northern Wisconsin, which was a long bus ride from the Gaslight.
Oh, I'm sure.
And listening to this music on record. I mean, the first time I ever heard a Tom Paxton song was I got an album that is, oh darn, you can't see it. It's hanging on my wall. It's the recording of Pete Seeger's concert in at Carnegie Hall in 1963, where he sang "Hard Rain's Gonna Fall," and he's saying, "What did you learn in school today?" Which was the first Tom Paxton song I ever heard and learned.
Yeah.
And here we are all those years later. It's a long time from 1963.
Wow. Has it? Yeah. Before we lost President Kennedy. And didn't you present Ramblin' Boy to Pete Seeger for that show?
I did. I did. Not long after I wrote it. That was in '63, and I said, "Well, it was after a rally that we had at the Village Gate, which was a large venue that few of us had played. It was mainly people a little further up the food chain played the Village Gate. Leon Bibb or Miriam Makeba, people like that. Um, but I had opened for Miriam Makeba at the Village Gate, and we had this magazine, a mimeograph magazine that came out monthly called Broadside. That was all new songs that we wrote, and we had a fundraiser every month on a Sunday afternoon. Art DeLugov gave us the club to have these rallies or these benefits, and so we used it to have a rally to start a boycott of the Hootenanny television show because they were blacklisting Pete. They lied and said they weren't. They they said no, we're not blasting Pete. We just don't have to go. We don't think he could hold an audience. This this is the man who
Oh,
had
wow.
Carnegie Hall
Yeah.
singing with him. And so Pete came and typically tried to talk us out of it. He said, it's good for folk music to have a big network show like this and good for it. We said, thanks a lot, Pete, but we're still going to boycott it. Well, after that rally was over, I went up to Pete kind of nervously. I was in awe of the man. And I said, Pete, could I sing you a song that I just wrote? And he said, sure, let's hear it. And I sang it to him, and he went and sang it a couple of weeks later in Carnegie Hall with the Weavers on a recording.
Mm.
And was I excited by that? And as we said in Oklahoma, I didn't know whether to shit or vote Republican. I was really excited. That was the big imprimatur for me. I mean, people said, "Well, if Pete Seeger is singing your songs, I guess we'll hire you." It was a wonderful moment for me.
Oh, the Weavers. Yes. They put out a documentary. It must be almost 40 years since that documentary. I
Oh
remember
yeah,
seeing it on
yeah,
a big screen. Wow, what a great documentary on them.
yeah.
I remember when
By the
that.
way, since he had just learned the song, he got it slightly wrong, and he sang "Fare thee well, my rambling boy." instead of here's to you. A big difference. Big deal to me. I couldn't have cared less. I was so excited. But he did get it slightly wrong. And right after that recording, he took his family on a year's sabbatical, and they went around the world. And I got this postcard from Pete after the album came out. I got this postcard from Pete from Calcutta. It was signed with a little drawing of a banjo that he always drew on his correspondence, and it said, "Dear Tom, oops, Pete." I don't have that card. I wish I did.
Yeah, Pete was a great writer. I mean, if you wrote to Pete
Oh,
as a friend or a fan,
yeah.
he, he would. Well, I remember when I lived in Charlottesville, he was there for the Virginia Book Festival, and he and Toshi came and ate at the house. And I just got back from Australia, and he said, "Now, John, I know you can't come to the concert tonight because you'll be home answering all your mail." I said, "No, Pete, I'll be there."
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
He sent me once one of his songbooks, and he inscribed it very nicely, very gently. And so I sent him my songbook back, and I said to Pete, "On whose aching shoulders I have stood for 50 years, Tom." He he was a giver,
He
a
certainly
giver.
and conscious of being an elder and a mentor. He was, I mean,
Yeah,
the first time I met him, which was in 1973, uh, he was sitting on the ground at a festival that I was playing at, and he came back and he gave me some advice and never stopped for the next 45, 50
yeah,
years.
yeah,
And it was not just how to be a better performer, but it was how to do this work better.
Hmm.
yeah.
What kind of tips did Pete Seeger give you as far as like performing? Like how you look to the audience? Did he give you technique tips?
Well, for
Hmm.
me, um, it was at that point in my career, I was playing a dozen instruments. It was like a circus on stage. And he said, I don't think you need so many things to do the most important work. And it really made me focus on the music
Yeah,
rather than, hey, look what I can do. Um,
yeah. It's less is more. There you go.
Right.
and
Yeah.
in a
I think the main lesson I learned from Pete is to go there, go all the way to the last row of the people, uh, go to the balcony, uh, go out
Hmm.
from yourself out. And no one ever did that better than Pete.
Oh, I remember when I bought that album that we both referred to. I'd never been to a concert. I'd never heard a Pete Seeger record. I just wanted this. It was the album was called "We Shall Overcome," and I had heard that song, and I was really fascinated by it because it sounded like a hymn, but I knew it couldn't be a hymn because every hymn I knew had singular pronouns, and "We Shall Overcome" was all about the plural. And I got it home, and it was a concert, and it was the audience was singing,
Yeah.
and I'm not just singing; it was full-throated harmony, and you were part of a choir, and it was not only did Pete reach everybody, he brought everybody in. And at the end of the concert, it was just like, wow, listen to what we just did.
Yeah,
And there
and
wasn't
you know,
anybody. Was
you
that?
know, of course, they salted the mine a little bit. They
Oh,
had
they,
a
yeah.
lot of great singers on stage, stage seats, uh, being picked up by that microphone. I don't know who everybody was, but they were all really great singers.
And it was brilliant, really. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
growing up a little Catholic kid, I didn't know human beings could sound like that.
yeah, yeah.
Great to get to know people like that too. You know, it's so funny. For years, I worked with Fred Hellerman's son. I work in
Ah,
television. I was like, what? I didn't know until after he left. I'm reading the obituary in the New York Times. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that he didn't say a word to me about a Caleb as his son. So it's like,
right.
I got a long thing with the Weavers. I remember getting Say Not, Say Not, Say Not. That was the first single that I ever heard
Yeah.
from the Weavers. My dad got that for me.
Well, the Weavers at Carnegie Hall album changed my life. I mean, by the time I got to the end of side two, I had a chance to tell every one of them, "Thank you for ruining my life." I, I underwent chromosomal change. That I went from someone who loved this stuff and became someone who had to do it, and they put me on the path I'm still on.
Oh,
And
that's such a familiar story.
yeah,
Tom and Harry Chapin both said, we heard
yeah,
that, said, that's what we want to do.
Pete and Peter Yarrow was at that concert.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny when after you've been a performer for a long time, when you hear the story, you hear it in a different way than most people hear it. I mean, Harold Leventhal, their manager, told about he went to town hall and said, I want to do a concert with the Weavers. And they said, well, I'm sorry, we can't do that. The Blacklist was
Right.
still going on. And he went to Carnegie Hall and said, I want to do a concert with the Weavers. And they said, do you have the money? And he said, I do. And so they gave him Christmas Eve, 1956. And after a while, as a performer, you say, wait a minute, Christmas Eve, that's the worst possible night of the year to try to do a concert. It's Christmas Eve. No one goes any place but, church or home. And of course, every lefty east of the Mississippi, they snapped up the tickets so fast. It sold out very quickly, I think. And you can hear it in the audience, the enthusiasm, the love for the Weavers.
Well, and
Um,
and really the blacklist really helped create the current iteration of the folk music world.
sure did.
Because all of a sudden Pete couldn't get work in nightclubs, and I mean he left the Weavers, and Tosha got on the phone and called every college folk song society, every
Yeah,
every Unitarian church, every and
yeah.
and those little and playing all those places created the folk music circuit. And certainly when I started out, those places were the places that hired me.
Yeah, amazing. They
So,
came.
so Toshi Seeger and Joe McCarthy created my job. Those are
Yeah.
those are, those are two names you often
So
don't hear used.
now, John, what was the first song that you and I wrote for this album?
Oh,
Was it was it you know uh,
I can actually, I'm at my computer, so I
You
can
got a
actually
little
look that
diary
up.
there. Yeah.
Uh,
I think it was Ukraine.
I think Campfire actually came before that.
Is that right?
Let me look at my with Paxton folder. Um, it, Good to see you if you have to go. Oh, this is really some interesting stuff.
Because you got 100 songs there, right? There throughout
Oh,
things.
this is just in 2021.
Wow.
Um, uh, you know, Ukraine, we wrote Ukraine in 2022 because that
Uh-huh.
When it
was when the
started.
invasion happened in February. So it was early on. It was early on. It
Uh-huh.
was certainly one of them that when we wrote it, we went, oh well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
This is
Ukrainian,
going
huh?
to work.
Yeah.
that
This
that
is going to work. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
also Tom and I share a lot of approaches. We've both written a lot of topical songs. I mean, Lyndon Johnson Told the Nation
Yeah.
is iconic. And Born on the 4th of July and Jimmy Newman, I mean, all those great songs that came out of the Vietnam War era.
Yeah.
And also we like to write funny songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not a lot of writers do that. I mean, there's Weird Al, that's all he does. But it's really hard to write funny songs. To write a
Sure it
song
is.
like Same Old Crap, every verse has to be funny. You
Yeah.
can't make people wait for a punchline. Um, or you
Tell you
keep
what, two great uh, masters for me are uh, Tom Lehrer and Shel Silverstein.
Mhm.
Mm.
I knew Shel. I only met Tom Lehrer once, very briefly, but I was friends with Shel, and we wrote a couple songs together on one occasion. They didn't turn out to be uh, good stuff, but I loved him, and I think he was one of the very best songwriters I've known. I mean, and
Oh,
his mantra was payoff. It has to pay off. A
right.
verse have to pay off. The last line of the verse has to tie it all together. What that verse has been about, and in other words, it needs a punchline. You know, you need a punchline in a funny song the way you need it in the joke, and it comes last. It
But
comes last.
but you can't. But you have to have something in every verse that
Absolutely.
that sustains that.
That.
And
Yeah.
in that way, when we're writing together, writing a song that isn't intended to be funny, the last line of every verse is your landing line. It has to work
Right.
too, you know.
Yeah. Take a verse from Charlie on the MTA.
Mhm.
His wife comes down to the Kendall's Air station every day at 2:15, and through the open window, she hands
And
Charlie a
Charlie a
sandwich as the
sandwich.
train comes hurrying through. You know, a little story in itself
Yeah, yeah,
with the sting in the tail. Yeah,
yeah.
Nice.
You make them laugh, and then you have some teeth to it too.
sure.
Nice. Nice. That opening track, Ukrainian Now, you got a nice cast of characters in that, and the video really captures
Oh
everybody in
yeah,
there.
oh yeah. Noel Stuckey did that.
Yeah, he did.
Noel
Great
Stuckey's the one
guy.
who put the video together. My old roomie.
Great guy. Met him backstage at Chastain Theater over here
Uh,
in Atlanta. Really, really great guy. And were
you'll
you
never meet
at
a better one.
Yeah, yeah, just incredibly talented. Peter, of course, we always go on about topical things as well. There's always
Sure.
something, always something to be going on about. But were you at Peter Paul and Mary's rehearsal for one of their first songs? Was it Don't Think Twice, It's All Right? You remember them
No,
putting that
no, I
together?
was rooming with Noel when they were putting. Yeah, and Peter would come over to. I was living with Noel. It was his apartment on East Fifth Street between B and C, which was, I mean, it was junkie city. They would regularly clean out our apartment. And Peter would come over there and they would work on the guitar parts. And one memorable night, they kept me up for hours working on the part for Lemon Tree for the first album. And I've hated the song ever since. Lemon Tree, very bad. God damn, it was awful. But we had a lot of fun with it. I mean, we'd usually wind up down in Chinatown at 2 in the morning, and great days, great days.
Yeah, and it got heavier through the 60s as the war raged on. It got much
Sure,
more
sure it
intense.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, great cast in Ukrainian Now. It just, it's fun. These things are still going on. We still have a lot of war
Yeah.
going on now, even more so than back then. So plenty of material to draw from.
Oh yeah,
The
and
people, some people accused Peter Paul and Mary of selling out, and but Peter, Paul, and Mary made the march from Selma to Montgomery, all of it, every step of it. They didn't get beat up, but they were on the march, and they didn't miss it. And none of those critics were there. They were. They walk the walk.
And I think there's a pretty common cultural habit of, you discover this artist in a small club, and
Yeah,
all of a sudden they're playing Carnegie Hall and they've sold out because
yeah,
you wanted them for yourself.
Right.
You
yeah,
saw,
yeah,
you saw it with Springsteen, you saw it with all kinds of people.
yeah. Certainly with Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah. But there's, you want to grow as an artist too. And a lot of people
yeah,
don't understand that. But, time goes on. You want to explore
Oh,
other avenues and genres.
yeah.
and Bill Monroe went through it. Astor Piazzolla, the great tango master from Argentina, he went through it. Anytime
Sure.
you step out of the lane of something old and sacred, the
Yeah,
apostasy is thrown out.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we're at Tom.
Apostasy.
I wanted to tell you that I've been working on Tabernacle today, which is a song that we wrote
Oh yeah.
after the Hamas invasion
Hmm.
of Israel, and it's all about, it's from an Israeli point of view, but it reaches out beyond. When
Yeah.
death comes, it's no different for an Arab or for a Muslim or a Jew, but using the Kaddish and the sitting Shiva for the whole world. So the stuff presents
For,
itself, and you try to
topic. Yeah.
how to be how to be honest, and Pete and lots of other people taught us how to be brave, and also that you don't have the answers. You just want to present questions in really
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
really intriguing and provocative ways. So I think I've got a melody, Tom, so I'll send it to you.
Ah, great,
Nice.
great, great.
Amazing.
We
Yeah. It's fun to
never,
work
we
with
never,
plugs.
we never stop. It never stops. It never stops. Nor should it.
No, here we are. I mean, most people our age are sensibly retired,
Yeah.
but we've never
There's
been.
nothing about this that is good sense.
No, no,
None of this ever made good sense.
we've never been accused of that.
Yeah, but it's very good to keep your mind going, like we were saying earlier. It's just you're giving yourself good mental exercise. And I think that's what staves off, things like dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever those things are. Not 100% cure or prevention, but it does keep
My
you
friends
going.
have
And
frozen.
yeah,
Uh, well, and no matter what your job is, uh, no matter
yeah,
what your job is, you want to be helpful,
yeah, yeah,
useful for as long as you can. And
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter whether you're a guy who is an electrician or a policeman or a teacher, as long as you can keep being useful.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And you're still producing, you're still writing and recording, and that's really important too. Not just doing the live performing, but it's really nice to just keep yourself active. Absolutely.
Well, and
And
it's what we do.
yeah.
And here's Tom again.
Yeah, yeah, something we got three here going. So yeah, looks like you're all back there and not frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
It's
internet can be a
the
tricky thing.
vagaries of the internet.
You guys just froze up. It got too tense for you, and you.
No, I didn't. We were so in awe.
The computers are smoking here. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
too much history.
Well,
So
this was a really fun project to do, not only because we have well over 100 songs. We're going in the studio again
oh yeah.
later this year to do another one, but just to decide what makes kind of a well-rounded collection of music. What can people stand to listen to? What things do we want to talk about? What overall story can it tell? And it was great to finally get in the same room together after being like
Yeah.
this on Zoom for so long.
Yeah, yeah. And with the production abilities of Bob Dawson and yourself, John,
Oh
and
boy.
it's just now, where did you record?
At his studio, Bias Studio in Springfield,
Spring.
Virginia,
Yeah.
it's a suburb of the DC area,
Hmm.
and it's one of the best studios in the world. And what makes it one of the best studios in the world is Bob Dawson.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
just inside the Beltway.
right. So I've recorded there for since the early 1980s.
Hmm.
Uh,
I have too.
and,
I've done several albums in there.
and when I moved down to the Atlanta area, I recorded in Christian Bush's Sugarland studio, and I went to Nashville, and one day I was you can see bookshelves behind me here. Somebody built those for me, and I was filling them with books and tapes and LPs and such. And I had iTunes on sort of random, and all of a sudden something from one of my old albums played, and I never listened to my old albums. Um, and I thought, oh, my voice sounds really good. It hasn't sounded this good since. So that's when I went back to Bias, and during at Bob, as you know, during the pandemic, I wrote a bunch of albums, and some of them, the last two, were a process of recording right here my parts and sending them to Bob, and Bob sending to JT, the bass player, and John Carroll, the piano player, and Stuart Duncan, the fiddle player, and having them each put on their parts, and it was so nice to play live
Oh yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's what
Nothing like it. Nothing
that's
like it.
about.
Yeah. So with Ukrainian now, were you all in the same studio, or did people send in tracks?
No, we
Because
were
you
only
you got a heavy hitters here. Yeah, Holly Near.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah, and with all the with this was all done. We went to Nashville to record Stewart and the great Charlie McCoy, Country Music Hall of Fame harmonica player, who I'd never worked with. Had you worked with Charlie before, Tom?
No.
He was a lovely guy, short little guy, but
Oh, he's
Good on
fun.
boy, could he
harmonica.
blow.
Yeah, he's a little good joke teller.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
Yeah, very much
He can
featured
play
on.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He can play any kind of music you want to lay in front of him. He'll get right in it.
and he told me he was doing a bluegrass album. That was his next project. So a bluegrass album with harmonica as the lead instrument. That'll be interesting.
Wow.
And I mean, he knows all the best guys. So,
He does. Well, he played with Elvis,
wow.
played with, Johnny Cash
and,
uh,
and Tom Paxton and John McCutcheon. So there you go. It's
yeah.
sort
It's
Oh,
all up there.
that kind of tied it all in a bow right
right.
there.
Before I die, I want to.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very much featured on this Campfire. It's a
Yeah.
great track. Nice slow
Oh,
lilting. Yeah, I love the harmonica on that.
Well, that was
that's one of my very favorite songs on this album. I love that chorus. I think it's a really good singing chorus.
and you know what was really interesting is we're recording this, and Bob says, and we had intentionally sort of tried to imagine, okay, Stuart, you wouldn't have a fiddle out on the road, out on the campfire. You'll have a mandolin. So play that. There's not going to be a piano. Play the accordion, John. And Bob stops halfway through the basic and says, John, your guitar sounds too good. You wouldn't have a guitar that good out there. And he goes to the closet and he pulls out an old silver tone guitar, which was the brand of the guitar I started playing when I was 18. And it was really emotional for me to play this really crappy sounding guitar on this. And at the end of it, he gave it to me, probably just to clean out his closet. But it was, yeah, that's one of the early songs we wrote. And yeah, when we wrote that chorus, it was, oh, this is just it was like putting on an old pair of boots.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah, you got some very heavy tracks in there. Letters from Joe. It
Oh,
really,
Mm.
that could just
oh my God.
punch
I
you.
don't know what,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
that's a first take. That's a first take.
You never
yeah,
And
know.
Bob turned to me after Tom sang that and he said, "Should we do another one?" I said, "Not on your life." That was
Yeah.
that was perfect. It was exactly what it should have been.
Yeah. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle once and it's like, nah, we don't
yeah.
need to do this again.
And
It reminds me of that.
it's such a great story. I mean, it's almost like I can't believe we wrote that.
Yeah, I can't either.
Just an evocative story. It's for your listeners, it's a story about a guy helping his brother remodel a house, and he's taken out a wall, and in the studs of the in the inner studs of the wall, he finds this box of letters, and it turns out to be from this guy who went off to fight in World War II to his wife, I guess, our sweetheart, and you're all of a sudden you're not only it's a story within a story, which was really great because you're right there with the
Right.
guy and he finds the box and all of a sudden you're reading the letters and it's like, whoa, I'm back in 1943. Um, it's great song, great delivery, and when Tom does that in our concerts, I mean, it's almost like people don't know if they should applaud at the end of
Yeah.
it. So intimate.
Yeah. You probably hear a needle drop, I'm sure. So, instead of those old bars
Yeah,
where they're using you as background music, this is like a
yeah,
completely different experience.
yeah, yeah.
That's not some of the same old crap.
No, that's new. That's new, and it's not crap.
Yeah. Do the work is a little bit more punchier. That's like on the other end of the spectrum. That's
Yeah,
I felt like you got a little funkier there.
yeah. Do the work.
Yeah, my recollection is we were just talking about songwriting in general, and you know, yeah, there's lightning in a bottle. Yeah, there's this inexplicable thing that happens when you just follow the song and see where it leads you. But it's my number. When I'm doing workshops, my number one rule is ass in chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do.
Um, my late wife told me once that psychology uh, uh, had found a connection between moving a pen on paper and a corner of the brain that generates ideas. And I think it could even extend to conversation also stimulates the brain for ideas. I mean, that when we always start by talking about sports or gossip or
Or sport.
who's in trouble uh, physically and they, only then do we say, well, what do we got here? And I almost never come to the sessions with an idea to bring. I always generate the idea once we're there. And I found what I did this do now when I'm teaching is I start them with 5 minutes of well, you can call it automatic writing. 5 minutes of writing without letting the pen leave the paper. It doesn't matter whatever they write, they'll never even look at it again. But they write for 5 minutes, and I think that that alerts the brain, and that they'll. I then ask them to write a song in 5 minutes, and they do that too. They say, "Well, it's impossible," but they do it, and I think it's because of the 5 minutes of just moving a pen.
Mm.
So getting started is never that difficult for John or for me.
Yeah.
Um, and we usually, I mean, our fail rate is pretty low, I think. There's not many songs that we write are stinkers. And the songs that I write by myself, I have a much higher fail rate. I'll get maybe 1 in 5 is worth rewriting. But I think we do a little better average than that.
And I think that one of the things that's happened for me in this collaboration, and both of us write with lots of people,
Yeah,
um, is that I learned how to be a good co-writer during the
yeah.
pandemic. You learn to be generous. You learn to be uh, flexible.
You
Um,
learn to listen.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, every now and again, one of us will get on fire,
Yeah.
and we're barreling down the road, and it's there's we're old enough and we've been pals long enough that there's no ego in this.
None.
Oh, I want this to be half my song. No, it's like, go, baby, go. Keep
Yeah,
going.
run.
You're on fire. And all that has, you know, I have the feeling now I could write with anybody
Yeah.
just because of the lessons I've learned from this collaboration. So it's not only the songs you get from it, you know.
Yeah, you like your partner to catch on fire. You say,
Yeah.
"Hey, yeah, I'll take 50. I'll take 50% of this." Yeah, go, go, go.
And this is unartificial intelligence at work.
Yeah,
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So you were both teachers. Have you both like gone and actually held workshops and taught your writing
Oh,
styles?
Oh
oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. I love teaching. I love it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever did an entire camp on my own, which was down at the Highlander Center in East Tennessee. I remember talking to my agent afterwards, and I said, God, if I could make any money doing this, I would do
Yeah,
this a lot. But part of the is for me is the joy of opening up someone to the possibilities of their own skills. And also, you know, I feel like we're populating the world with more songwriters. And considering that we live in a culture where, you know, the average person is conditioned to be a consumer of music rather than a creator of it, you realize how crazy and radical writing your own songs is, and how life expanding. And you know, most of the people who come to my workshops are not going to end up being professional musicians or songwriters. But when somebody retires in their office, or where their grandmother turns 90, or if they need a new song for their church or whatever, or when you know, when their first grandchild is born,
yeah,
they have something to do. They can
yeah,
become the songwriter laureate in their
yeah.
family or their union or their office or whatever. And that's a great thing.
Beautiful to pay it forward.
Or they can things will happen in their family where people will say, "Oh God, here comes Grandpa with his guitar." They can
Oh
become notorious in the neighborhood.
yeah, you know, oh God, you know, I really screwed up, and that's going to be memorialized
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you,
Oh
Bob.
yeah. There's gonna be a song about this in the family. Oh my God.
Well, and I mean, it's though it's kind of fun, you know, when there's a wedding or there's a birth or whatever in our family. At some point during the events, people will stop and go, "Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's what he does."
Yeah, it sounds like something in a comedy movie, like one of those Judd
Yeah.
Apatow movies. Like I could see
Yeah.
characters
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's
Uh,
really sweet. Yeah, what a great project. So you had 100 songs throughout the
something like that.
pandemic. How did you whittle it down to the 14? That's it must have been a tough task.
Well, the songs kind of do that for you. You
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
down the list and say, "Oh my God, we got to do this one."
Well, and
You
it,
know,
yeah, there were some that were no-brainers. We knew we needed to get Ukrainian Now out there, and I think that song, especially now that there seems to be a wavering on the part of some of our leaders to continue to support, you know, a democracy in danger. Um,
yeah,
that we wanted, you know, there were some no-brainers on this.
Yeah.
But there were some that, were big, big favorites of one of ours or the other, and it was a lot like co-writing. Yeah, yeah. Well, that one doesn't ring the bell quite as much for me, but if you really
Yeah.
love it, hell yeah, let's do it. We, you know, and now it's, you know, we got plenty for another album, but we're writing all the time. So
Yeah.
we'll be, we'll
Keep.
be, we'll be presented with problems again.
Yeah. I was just thinking of Christmas in the Desert. I want to put out a single of that.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how you do that nowadays, but I want that song to be heard during the Christmas season because I really like it a lot.
Yeah. Well, we recently I should mention, Bob, that we have another thing at 3. So we need to stop within the next 5 minutes.
That is
And you,
totally fine. Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, when we were doing our live shows this last weekend, it was we we had all these songs from that we thought we ought to do from the album, and normally when you go out, you do maybe half the show from the new album. And then you do your old favorites, and Lord knows Tom has lots of old favorites in the
Oh
audiences.
yeah.
But we ended up essentially doing the entire album.
We did.
That's
Um,
great. That's
yeah,
great.
and I didn't hear a lot of complaints at the end saying, "I want to
No, no,
hear
Yeah.
that."
you didn't do so and so. No,
Yeah,
I get no,
Excellent.
no
Yeah.
complaints.
Total respect for artists who do that. Comes to mind is Peter Gabriel. He did so many of his new songs. He never came here to Atlanta, but that's an artist who's been around for ages, and he did
yeah,
like 11 songs off his new forthcoming album. I have total respect.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so great to speak with both of you. The album
Thank
is
you, Bob.
together and it's available wherever you get music. These days it's digital, but isn't it nice to get the vinyl? I'm sure it's a beautiful packaging.
Now go down to Decatur CD.
There we go.
Warren will
Yeah.
have some.
Yeah. Now, is Wuxtree still around? This is an Atlanta thing. Is it Wuxtree? I haven't been down that way in a while. There was
I
a
haven't been down there. Warren is my guy.
yeah.
That's where I always go to
Go over
get
to
my.
Decatur CD, Decatur, Georgia. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Take
You're
care.
welcome.
Bob,
You're
it's always
welcome.
nice to share a corner with you.
Always, always. I got to see you at Eddie's Attic one of these days. I keep promising.
I'll be there in February.
Awesome. Awesome. Take care. Have a good one.
See you in a
Okay.
few, Parker.
Bye bye. And I hope you enjoyed that. And stay tuned. I got a lot more interviews, many more legends ready to come on this show. So take care. Have a good one. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And let's hear it for December.